Hello. Um, so I want to talk a little bit about nutrition because I've had some people ask me some questions about what I do for nutrition, what my macros are like, what my thoughts are about diet, supplementation, training, that kind of thing. So um, I think it'd be beneficial to give a little bit of a history about my history with powerlifting and bodybuilding. I started off playing volleyball in high school and in college, and I kind of discovered bodybuilding.com about the first year or so of playing volleyball in college, and kind of started to take weightlifting a little bit more seriously in efforts of improving my vertical and making me hit harder and jump a little bit higher. Which, by the way, if there's any volleyball players out there, you really need to get on essentially a powerlifting plyometric style training program because I've increased some of the players' verticals that I've trained upwards of 8, 9 inches, including myself. But that's beside the point. The point really is that I got into bodybuilding and got a little bit away from volleyball for a while and had some horrible diets. So, I mean, one of the diets that I found for a while, I didn't know a whole bunch, and I did a diet that was basically 6 times a day. I would eat broccoli, 18 almonds, and some chicken or some tuna. And it was bland, and I was drinking 2 gallons of water a day with no additives, and I had oatmeal in the morning with a protein shake, and that was it for 5 months or so. And it was pretty straightforward, and there were no refeeds, and I didn't even know what a refeed was, but it worked to get me down to 5%, and that was the first time I'd been that low. I was just kind of following something that I saw, and not really knowing a whole bunch else except to be dedicated as hell and to stick through it till the end. And then, later on, I keep researching. I find 3DMJ. I keep reading stuff, and my knowledge of nutrition grows a little bit to include things like macronutrients, protein goals, that you want calories to stay as high as possible while training, that you don't want to cut calories, that carbs are important, that fat is important, and that there's a little bit more of a scientific approach out there, and I kind of went towards that regard. I bodybuilded for a few more years and did reasonably well at the novice level, and as high as a second place in an open finish. After which I just couldn't justify the 5 months of strict dieting, and by strict dieting I mean weighing out things to the gram level and tracking everything that you eat for 4 to 5 months or so, 20 to 24 or something weeks like that. On a consistent basis to justify the result of getting up on stage for one day and competing. And this is just my own personal opinion. I know plenty of other bodybuilders who are very accomplished and that do this tremendously well, and that it gets easier over time, and so on and so forth. It just wasn't the right fit for me, and it seems now like powerlifting is the right fit for me as far as a competitive sport. Provides me a little bit more leeway in that regard, and I don't have to be 5% to do well. The other realization that I came to at some point, I'm not exactly sure when, is that I like food. And a lot of the foods I like are salty, they're fatty, they're sugary, and I can't stay on macros year round. I need to fluctuate a little bit. I need to not have to track, and for me it's a little bit of a pain in the ass to track what I'm eating every single day. The caveat is that when it comes time for cutting weight for competition or something like that, I leave myself plenty of time, plan out everything, and by the time I hit that mental diet switch, it's on, and there is no leakage. There is no oh, I'll have a few extra rice cakes, or I won't quite weigh out this, or I'll have a cheat day, or man, I slipped up, or something like that. It's just 100% dedication once I make that mental switch to competition mode. And one of the reasons why I'm making this video now is that I'm starting that mental switch this Sunday leading up to my competition 5 weeks from now. So I'll be locked tight, and diet will be very much just using My Macros Plus, the app on the phone, and tracking things. So I'll be tracking out weights, exactly what I eat. As far as what I'll be eating, I'm very much for the if it fits your macros approach, as long as you're making sure that you're getting in some micronutrients or taking multivitamin or something like that. If you haven't heard of that, what does that mean? Basically, that you have certain goals of protein, carbs, and fats that you hit in terms of weight in grams per day, and that can differ depending on what your coaches or what you set for yourself as far as the goals go. Are you cycling? Are you having one refeed day a week, etc., etc.? But that what the foods are within that you eat during the day don't matter as much as the overall caloric intake. So for instance, if I were to, have chicken versus protein, if I were to have, classic example, Pop-Tart versus an orange, will it impact my fat loss as much? No, it won't, not as much as the overall intake. So that's number one. Number two being food choice secondarily. And I also think that approaches have to be individualized, so a diet that works for someone else may not work for you. The numbers that work for someone else may not work for you. I'm lucky enough to be a part of 3D Muscle Journey, a contest prep for bodybuilding, powerlifting, Olympic weightlifting company. And if you haven't heard about them, you should really look them up because they're a really solid company. And Eric Helms is my trainer, and he's personally involved in ongoing research on protein synthesis and amino acids, which I find amazing. But where was I? So the approach for nutrition should emulate that roughly. As far as my off season, I still try to hit my protein goals per day, but other than that, I'm okay with being a little bit overweight, and I'm lucky enough to have a self-image that is okay when I'm don't have a six-pack or anything like that, and I'm lucky enough to have a girlfriend that isn't turned off when I don't have a six-pack or anything like that, and she gives me plenty of support, and she still thinks I'm sexy when I don't have a six-pack. So she's seen me both ways, and I love her. But again, sidetracking. Back to the point. Point is that as far as nutrition goes, I need some leeway personally, that I can enjoy myself and eat out sometimes and cook food for my family, my girlfriend sometimes. But when it comes time for training, I give myself plenty of time based off of how much I have to lose, what the competition looks like, and I lose it. And once it comes time to flip that switch, it's calories, it's making sure that I'm tracking grams of protein, grams of fat, that I'm taking in the appropriate amount of meals per day. For myself, I found that 5 meals per day just works in terms of my schedule and keeping me full and satiated, and also being able to hit my calorie goals without taking in 150 grams of protein per meal or something like that. And again, the approach has to be entirely individual. We know some athletes at 3DMJ who thrive on extremely high carb diets. We know some who thrive extremely on low carb diets, some who thrive on high fat diets, low fat diets, high protein diets. There is a diet for everyone, I think, and it takes a little bit of guessing and testing to figure out what works for you individually. Some other people more knowledgeable than me can, I'm sure, provide more information when it comes to metabolisms and macronutrients and protein and things like that. But since I was asked to give my opinion on nutrition, that's it. And I think that as far as your training, and you're training in a caloric surplus, if the goal is to gain muscle, a caloric surplus without going too overboard is a great thing. And again, personally, I think this is one of the novel things, and it's the thing that's been underemphasized a little bit in the nutrition world, is that life does not go on forever, and food is a great part of life. I mean, it's a really, really fun, rewarding part of life, especially if you like to cook, if you like to actually sit down and talk over a meal and enjoy some good foods. And sometimes being on strict macronutrients takes some of the fun out of that. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's a little bit of a puzzle to try to figure out exactly what type of meal would work when you have 60 grams of carbs, 40 grams of fat, 10 grams of protein, or whatever it is. It's a puzzle to figure out what can I make that's tasty that still fits these macros. But by and large, that's not it's not what it's about. And restaurants make extraordinarily good food sometimes, and you're not going to ask the chef to, hey, can you just use 10 grams of fat, please, or anything like that. And there has to be a way to fit that lifestyle in, and for me, this is the way that I've found, and that's not to stay on macros year-round. It's to pick and choose when I need to go on macros, when do I need to mini-cut, when do I need to full dietary cut. And as a competitive athlete, there has to be balance in life, and that's the balance I've struck. Thanks.